This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 241 is brought to us by Blueberry Markets. When it comes to people getting a return on their money, people will absolutely fight over the difference between a 3% return and a 4% return year over year. For you, right now, you get a 40% return in a day simply by taking the money out of your inferior broker and switching it over to the best broker of all time, and that is Blueberry Markets. You can trade anything you want on any platform you want. You get the world's best customer service. You can set up your own business with Trade Copier or PAM. You can do everything here, but the bonus only kicks in if you click my link. The way you do that is go down to the Blueberry Markets blog, which you're going to find the link for in the show notes. Read the blog, make sure it's for you. It's going to be. And then click that link and get yourself started. This offer is only for a limited time. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and oh, buddy, we need to have a little talk, don't we? We had some crazy price action go on this past week, or I really should say this past Friday, in particular in the precious metals market, in particular in the silver market. And of all the things I've seen in my investing career, and all the things I've seen in the 2020s, mostly, really, this one probably takes the cake as the dumbest sell-off of all time. For those of you who've been in the silver market for a few years, or if you've traded it for any amount of time, you know that the world we used to know in this market is very, very different now. Price is obviously much higher, but the market has all of a sudden become like meme coin-like volatile in a very short amount of time. And you can either complain about it, or you can accept reality and embrace it, because this market has become excellent for investors and traders alike. But this past Friday, one of the craziest days of price action I have ever seen took place. We saw a 10 sigma move in the price of silver. Now, I don't know how many of you actually know what that is or even bother to follow it. If you do, let me just say that if I ever see a 2 to 3 sigma move in price over time, not one day, over time, to the upside, that is generally when I start looking to take profit in the things I invest in. Not only did we see a 10 sigma move, we saw it to the downside in one day. Seeing silver drop from, I think, the 113 range all the way down to, where are we at right now? A bit over 85. And people were actually like, how did that many people go and sell their silver bars and coins in one day? Can anybody answer that? I think you can by now. That's not what happened, obviously. This was all done on the paper market. This is all the COMEX and the LBMA. And if there really is any justice in this world, every single employee of these two places would be in jail right now for what they just did. But we all know that's not the case. And if anybody's been with me for a while, you kind of know the anatomy of how these things work. This is something they've always wanted to do, and they just needed a scapegoat. Now, when they get these scapegoats, they don't make a lot of sense, but at least they have a scapegoat. At least they have something they can point to say, hey, look. But this one didn't make any sense at all if you're actually paying attention. What the thing is, though, is they know that most people either aren't paying attention, or if they are, they don't know how to process things the way we do here. They will go to CNBC or go to Bloomberg and say, hey, what's going on? CNBC or Bloomberg will tell them, and then they'll say, oh, okay, I guess that's the answer. And as silly as this sounds, we're talking about people with, tens of millions of dollars in net worth, looking at the situation that happened on Friday and saying, oh, they brought in a hawkish Fed chair, and that's why this happened. Okay, got it. I'll go back to doing whatever it is I was doing. So let's break down what actually did happen here. What really did happen was one of the biggest nothing burgers of all time. Now, whoever the Fed chair is going to be, we all know from being in investing, for any amount of time, that whoever the Fed chair is and what they do has a really large bearing on the price of a particular asset, especially in the United States, if not the world. Again, we don't like the fact that one person can wield this much power, but you know as well as I do, that's where we are, and we must play the game in front of us. So the Trump administration, or I should say Donald Trump himself, let's be honest, selected Kevin Warsh as the new Fed chairman. That is a name you're going to hear a lot, so get used to that name. But the big reveal, I guess, and I guess this was a surprise to the market because things don't move like this unless people were just shocked, like flabbergasted on a global scale. They were shocked to learn that Kevin Warsh, out of all the Fed governors, out of all the nominees, was hawkish on the United States dollar and not dovish. Just to define terms here, hawkish means you are more pro the United States dollar and you want the value to go up, which means you would be more likely to raise interest rates. And if you're dovish, you would like rates to go down. You want a weaker dollar. So as we know here, when the dollar gets stronger, almost everything else gets weaker and vice versa. So this sent the price of everything down. Stocks, precious metals for sure, because precious metals are the safeguard against a weakening dollar. Oddly enough, Bitcoin didn't go down nearly as much, but it certainly did go down. Energy stocks fell, everything, really. I think oil went up. But silver dropped at a 10 sigma rate. Does this make sense? Is this making sense to anybody already? Already doesn't make sense. But let's dive in even further as to why this makes absolutely no sense. First of all, this appointing of the Fed chair was not a surprise at all. Polymarket had Kevin Warsh at 91% to get the nomination. Where was the fucking surprise? Where was it, contrarians? Where was the big shock that sent silver down $28 in one day? Where is it? I'm looking for it. I can't find it. So Trump appointed the guy who was almost a shoo-in to get the nomination anyway, and the silver market panics. That's what you're telling me? All right, if that's not ridiculous enough, let's keep going here, okay? You guys have all been around long enough to remember my predictions episodes for the month of January. We're still in January, by the way. What does Donald Trump want? What has he been screaming at Jerome Powell about publicly ever since he took office? Lower rates. Because the Trump administration wants to win the midterms. Rates have to go down on the dollar, contrarians, so the stock market can go up, so crypto can go up. Lower rates makes the dollar easier to borrow, which means people can borrow dollars cheaply, put them into the market, and make those markets go higher. It also makes the dollar less attractive of an investment option, which makes things like gold, silver, and Bitcoin more attractive. Also, don't forget, I said this in the crypto episode, we are still going to print money this year. Do you think that changed overnight? No. Kevin Warsh is the conduit for all of these things. This is why he was appointed. I don't care if he's being labeled as hawkish. Peter Schiff said it perfectly. They said he's still a dove, big time. He's just more hawkish than the other choices they had. You really think, as bad as Trump has wanted lower rates, that he's going to bring in a guy who's not going to do that? Are you out of your mind? Fundamentally, absolutely nothing has changed. Yet we still get the mother of all fire sales in one day, especially in silver. Class, what do we call this? With a capital letter on both words. Actually, just capitals all across the board. Sweet divergence. If you're new to the show, this is a phrase we have coined here. It is ours. If you trademark it, I will kill you. What it means is when you have a situation where all of the bullish fundamentals have remained exactly the same, absolutely nothing has changed, but the price has to the downside, especially when it happens in a big way, you have all of a sudden become gifted a situation where you can now buy something with incredibly bullish long-term fundamentals at a much cheaper price than you could the day before or the week before, whatever the situation is. These events don't happen often. They happen in the crypto market a bit more often than they will in other places. But even when they happen in the crypto market, it's only maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years. And those are the times to absolutely buy with both hands. Because what is the definition of investing? The transfer of wealth from dumb money to smart money. What have we been ever since the beginning of this show? We take a smart money approach to investing in markets where most people aren't that smart. And that even includes the precious metals market. They're not as dumb as crypto. Crypto is the gift that keeps on giving. But you will see dumb things every once in a while, and when you do, you must take advantage. Now, it's going to feel a bit spooky and scary when it happens, but if you're doing things correctly, if you're doing things the way we do them here on the podcast, they're not spooky and scary at all. You just have to look at the reality. And the reality is, not one fundamental in silver has changed. The market dropped on one of the dumbest reasons I have ever seen in my 18 years of investing. And if you actually zoom out like you're supposed to, but nobody does for some reason, I'm looking at the chart right now, my monthly chart on spot silver. I'm seeing a nice, pretty green candle. It's pretty big too. And that's good. Also, when things go up a whole lot, you can expect a correction somewhere at some point. And in the history of what this move is going to end up doing, this is probably not going to be our only correction. But I know a lot of you, when silver was in the 110, even the 120 range, were probably kicking yourselves saying, man, I really wish I had more exposure here, either to the physical metal or the mining stocks, which also took a nice sweet dump. What I wouldn't do to turn back the clock to back when silver was at 95 or even 85 or even 80, and get the chance to add on. Well, the moment's here. What will you do? And by the way, I'm only speaking to people in the Western Hemisphere. The people in the East didn't sell. These were only Westerners selling. When it's all said and done, who do you think's going to win this? And my money's on the East. They understand what we understand here. We are investing long-term in superior money, which just happens to be really rare and diminishing quickly. We don't care what social media does or what the people on CNBC and Bloomberg want us to do. We are collectors of these stocks and of these metals and of these crypto tokens and coins. We are accumulators. We buy at good prices and then we do nothing, just like the great investors do. Again, do you think Stanley Druckenmiller's panicking here? Rick Rule even came out and said this whole thing's a nothing burger. He's right. Again, do you really want to take the ethos and the mentality of these types of investors and go, nuh-uh, my favorite Twitter follow said this is a big deal. Therefore, all right, well, your other favorite Twitter follow, VP, is saying it's not. And when moves like this happen, I buy. Last time copper did this, went from 5-something to 4-something, lost about $1 overnight. And I'm like, okay, why did this happen? And I'm looking, I can't even remember what the reason was, but I was looking and I'm like, this is one of the dumbest reasons I've seen in a while until today. But back then I was like, oh, I think it's some China news. And the China news, we've talked about this before in the copper market. It's always stupid and nonsensical and gives you sweet divergence and a great buying opportunity. And that's exactly when I went in and bought 2 copper positions. I'm like, well, shoot, I'm probably never going to see this again. And I want a lot more copper exposure, so it's time to put my money where my mouth is. And that's exactly what I did. And not official financial advice, I suggest you all do the same. We are seeing incredible sweet divergence in precious metals. mining stocks, and even crypto right now. The sentiment in crypto is really poopy. But guess what? The crypto sentiment is always poopy during the lows. Go to your chart, your monthly chart, and zoom out and circle every low you have seen since, I would say, maybe the year 2018. During every one of those times, sentiment was bad. It's nothing more than a test. How many times have you passed? How many times have you failed? Are you passing or are you failing right now? I try to pass this test every chance I get. You guys know my cash situation has been a bit low because I just dumped a bunch of cash on a new business and a plot of land back in 2025. So I usually have a decent amount of cash to invest with, but I just haven't lately. I finally came around to where I had enough of it for one new investment position. And I took that position earlier in the week. And if you are a reader of the Contrarian Investing blog on Substack, that's my blog, you should subscribe to it. It's free, and the link is down below in the show notes. You will probably get just as much alpha there as you get here. So if double the alpha for free sounds good to you, then please go click that link right now. Pause the podcast. We'll be here. But you're going to want to get on board with that. And the blog post I wrote this past week was on zinc and how I feel it is one of those areas in the metals world where people just aren't looking. Just base metals in general. Overall, more people are looking at them now than they were really ever. So our job is to find out where they're looking the least, because that's where the opportunities are going to lie. And so I made my case on that blog post. And then I told you I was buying a particular stock this week. I didn't say the name, but I said you guys could probably figure this out because I also brought it up on last week's episode of this podcast, the Big Energy episode. So you kind of see how these things like all link together. And you could get advanced knowledge of these things simply by staying connected. Now, I have to say this every single time. I am very transparent with every move I make in the crypto world, less so in stocks. But I do share every once in a while, and this is going to be one of those times because I want people to kind of understand the process I go through and what I look for in a stock position that I'm very interested in. Because this one just seems to have all of the elements, pun intended. And maybe if I would turn back the clock, I might add on to my silver positions with the sweet divergence. But I don't know, man. Even despite the mother of all sweet divergence occurrences last Friday, I'm still really happy with the position I took, even though it's probably down a little bit because of what happened on Friday, which means if anybody is interested here, you could probably get it at a cheaper price than I did. And then you can flex on me for the next 10 years because that's probably the minimum amount of time I'm going to hold this thing. And this is going to be a company called Tech Resources, ticker symbol TECK. And yeah, looking at it, down 7.8% yesterday for no good reason. So have at it. But let's talk about this stock for a moment and why I like it so much. So first of all, if you remember the Big Miners episode from a long time ago, I always say that's one of the cornerstone episodes of this podcast. It was kind of an afterthought for a lot of people. It didn't get as many views as some of the other episodes before and after it did. But don't it always seem to go? Those end up being some of the most important episodes we ever do here on the podcast. Now, oddly enough, Tech did not make the cut. I put the top 5 out there. Tech would have probably been in the 5 to 10 range, along with like companies like Freeport-McMoRan, Sibanye, maybe a few others. But Tech's up there. It's a big player. And I keep saying ad nauseum on this podcast how much I really, really want more copper exposure. And Tech is that. They are a big player in the copper market, but they also give you a lot of 2 other very important minerals. One of them is the one I wrote about this week, zinc. They're a huge zinc producer, and now I have some good exposure there. So just with one stock, I have crazy zinc exposure now. And what did we talk about last episode as well and on the blog? Most of your, as big as silver is and as big as it's going to be, most of your silver does not come from actual silver mines. They come from gold mines. They also come from base metal mines like copper and zinc. Tech produces a lot of bonus silver. And I don't think this silver is factored into the price at all. I don't think most investors realize it. Now, again, if you are someone who is going to invest your money in a company like Tech Resources, I would think you should be aware of all the silver offsets they produce, but I would be willing to bet most tech investors just don't know that. Like, again, we are on levels so far above not just your average investor, but your mostly educated investor here. Again, I don't think they know this, but now you know this simply by listening to the sound of my voice and reading my blog post. I think this will be a very big deal going forward, not just on the copper side, but on the silver side too, and on the zinc side. And I am getting all of those things in a stock I can pretty much squat on for the next decade. Sign me up, please. I needed more copper exposure, and now I got it. I've mentioned in the past, too, how I have places I go to pretty much do my fundamental work for me. I mean, I do the stuff that I think matters, but there's also some of the back-end stuff, and so I have paid services and I have free, and I combine those things together. Now, what almost all of them are saying is Tech Resources is anywhere from a buy to a strong buy. The only place that didn't like it was Morningstar, and I could give a shit less what Morningstar thinks. I'm not buying a bond, and Morningstar pretty much hates every commodity company out there, so screw them. But it was nice to have confirmation from my fundamental sources as well. And what's kind of great, too, is if you really zoom out, this stock is not broken out to new highs yet. The highs were back in 2011, back when we had that commodities run. Now, midterm, it has broken out to new highs. But as we said before, that's not something to be scared of. A lot of investors, big investors, don't even start looking at stocks until they hit their 52-week highs. And tech is there. But also, there's not a whole lot of places where you can find stocks that haven't broken their new highs yet. But in the big miner sector, there are. So that, to me, is quite exciting. Because if you think about it, the situation we had back in 2011, I'm not sure how many of you remember all the way back then, at least when it comes to the markets, is way different than the situation we have now. Back then, it was mostly recovering from the great financial crisis. China was buying a lot. These things were in high demand, but they weren't super rare. They weren't super scarce back then. And not only are all of these metals scarce and rare now, at least silver and copper certainly are, but the absolute war we have with these things between countries to secure their future for all of the reindustrialization, all of the electrification, all of the AI we're going to see in the future is going on right now, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. And then once it happens, we're still going to encounter a situation to where we just don't have enough silver or copper to do the things we want to do. I've said this many times on the podcast. And I don't like to predict things too far out into the future because most of them are generally wrong. But I'm pretty confident making this one. I even said with silver that there's going to be a time where we just can't even mint coins anymore because we need silver for actual things. And as cool as minting coins are, that's going to be way low on the priority list. And we are already seeing this now. So a prediction I didn't even expect to happen for years down the road is already coming true. So all of this is another reason I'm super happy with the purchase I made with Tech Resources. But here is something even better and a reason for a bit of urgency if you're interested in this stock to buy it now. Tech is about to merge with another big miner. That big miner is Anglo American. Gemini and Grok both put the chance of this merger happening at over 90%. This is a big deal. These are two titans joining forces, which means if you are invested in one, you're getting the other, and you're getting all of those resources. And there's two pieces to this. One, as I just said, are all of the additional resources you're going to get once these two merge. The company is going to be called Anglo Tech, And if you are already a tech holder, for example, you are going to get even more copper in this deal. So you already had a big player in the copper space. You're getting an even bigger player now. Along with, because with copper comes what, contrarians? More silver. Yay, we want that. So more copper, more silver, and you're getting additional benefits of a lot of gold. Anglo American is a big gold producer. And nothing wrong with that. And you're also getting some platinum group metals here. Like you're getting platinum itself and a nice bit of it. So I know most of you don't have platinum exposure right now, but you would if you bought this stock. Not financial advice, of course, just stating facts. And a nice little bit of iron ore on the back end. Just go ahead and throw that in too. Something like this, I definitely want to get into before the merge, not after the merge, because I learned this from being a holder of Silvercrest back in the day. What happened with Silvercrest is they merged with Core Mining, which is a big boy. And I had the smaller company of the two. I was the little spoon here. But for my troubles, by troubles, I mean I just had to sit back and do nothing. I ended up getting 1.66 shares of Core for every share of Silvercrest I had. Like they were just gifted to me. So now because of that, and because of the run-up we've seen in silver and how some of these bigger companies just get bigger and bigger, Core is now, I think, one of my top 1 or 2 positions in my entire portfolio. Now, what's crazy is that merger was a bit unannounced. It was a bit sudden. This one's not. Like, as long as it actually happens, and even if for some reason it doesn't, I'm still pretty happy with the position, but it's supposed to. And we're all aware of it, and now you have the chance to buy either Tech or Anglo. And so what do you win if you're with one or the other? Well, it's 2 very different prizes. And from a strategy point of view, it all depends on if you're going short-term or long-term here. If you're going short-term, which we don't like to do on the podcast, but if you wanted to, you would rather invest in Anglo in this particular situation because you're going to keep your shares at 1-to-1. But you're also going to get a really nice, just out of nowhere dividend. It's like $4.19 per share. Again, don't quote me on this. Do your own research, but this is what I have gathered. You're going to get a bit of an appreciation thank you to shareholders. Now, this is going to set the company back a little bit financially as far as their cash flow goes. But again, if you're short term and you don't care about that, you're going to want to be on the Anglo side. If you're long term, like we all are here, you are going to want to be on the tech side because just like what happened with Silvercrest, you're going to get bonus shares simply for existing. It's not like crypto where they take a snapshot and if you're in 2 years ago, you get more than you would if you bought today. It doesn't matter. What you will get here is when Anglo Tech becomes a thing, you are going to get 1.33 shares of the new company, Anglo Tech, for every share of tech you held before the merger. So not only do I get all of the great things I just spoke about, I'm also going to get 1.33 to 1 in terms of number of shares. I'm getting a 33% boost in my position just for being there. Okay. I mean, I was going to invest anyway, but you're going to give me that? That is, contrarians. God, imagine doing that and then signing up for Blueberry Markets as your trading broker and getting a 40% return. Click the link in the show notes. Don't forget to do that. God, free money, please. Sure. No, for taking 5 to 10 minutes of my time in something that's going to benefit me a lot anyway. Yeah. Yeah. Given where my portfolio was and what I wanted and what this thing gives me, and what it's going to give me, it's going to give me a lot more. And then it's just going to give me a bunch of stock for free at a slight penalty to overall cash flow, which is going to replenish itself easily over time. And time is what I have here. Come on. I'm over the moon. So again, contrarians, you do whatever you want. You do what makes sense to you. Just make sure you're doing your research. I do get things wrong sometimes. Hard to believe because I usually get things right, but I do get things wrong sometimes. But I really just wanted to illustrate these 2 things, the silver part and the sweet divergence part and the Fed share part is much more important than something I just like and something I bought. But I thought I would combine the two today. And if you've learned anything, just understand that most media, especially social media, is just the portrait of mushy middle behavior. It is the opposite of what you want to do. And they are absolutely spooked at the idea of buying anything in the precious metals or crypto world right now. But we know opportunity when we see it. And we know they don't come around a lot. But when they do, that's when it's time to strike. It's not crazy at all. You're just early.